Very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television. All the biggest news stories from India and across the world coming up ahead. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you. Let us start with the headlines. Ten days after taking oath for the second term, Modi government tightens noose on corrupt bureaucrats, dismisses 12 senior income tax officials on charges of corruption. One joint commissioner, principal commissioners and commissioner ordered compulsory retirement. In meeting with top bureaucrats, PM sets out agenda for the next 5 years, improving the ease of living to be the main priority of all ministries. Asks official to work on making India a $5 trillion economy. Prime Minister Modi to attend the 19th SCO summit in Kyrgyzstan's capital Bishkek, to also hold bilateral talks with the leadership of Kyrgyzstan, Russia and China. Fight against terrorism and defense matters to be the highlight of the talks. Ahead of the Union budget, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman to hold pre-budget consultations, interaction with agriculture experts on ways to boost farm sector growth today. And no respite from heat as mercury continues to rise. Delhi records highest ever temperature in June at 48 degrees. Churu sizzles at 50. Centre convenes urgent meeting with the states on water crisis. The biggest story this morning, in a first such move, the government has ordered compulsory retirement of 12 senior ITF officers on charges of corruption and misconduct. Now, the post of the officers dismissed range from Joint Commissioner, Chief Commissioners, Principal Commissioners and Commissioners. Now, 8 of these officers are being investigated by the CBI on serious corruption charges. Among the officers dismissed are a Joint Commissioner rank officer against whom there are serious complaints of corruption and extortion. It also includes an IRS officer who is accused of sexual harassment and another IRS officer who has acquired movable and immovable assets worth over 3 crore rupees. And let's get more details. Our colleague Panchalan Mishra is joining us for more on that story. Panchalan, a very good morning. So it is unprecedented. The government, finance ministry really ordering 12 senior government officers to retire over the allegations of corruption, sexual abuse. It is totally unprecedented.
Exactly, Aishwarya. A very clear-cut and strong message has been given by central government that if there will be no tolerance against corruption and also incapability. And this is the first time that 12 such a senior officer at the rank of commissioner has been given the marching orders. And you must be remember that 3 years ago there was the same type of action has been taken, but the amount was very less. So and the timing of message, you see that yesterday Prime Minister hold meeting with all the secretaries and the order came on the same day. However, the action was taken much earlier and the cases were pending in the courts. But the order came on the same day. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi on one hand is banking on bureaucracy. He has a faith in bureaucracy, but in all other hand, if there is a corruption, if there is an incapability, then there will be action against officials, however it may be senior, maybe. So the officers face charges that were ranging from corruption and disappropriate assets to non-performance. These were the allegations. And the fallout is that they will be given pay and allowance for the 3 months, but would not be entitled to pension. So the severity of action, you may barely 10 days after this taking charge, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi taking this action, and this is a very clear-cut message to entire not only bureaucracy but entire system.
Absolutely, and Modi government tightening news around corrupt bureaucrats. A very, very important message that corruption will not be tolerated, that the government is sending out just 10 days after taking oath for the second term. Thank you so much, Panchanan, for all those updates there. And on to some other news. In a meeting with the secretaries of all the ministries on Monday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi asked the top bureaucrats to prepare a 5-year plan for each ministry with well-defined targets and milestones in sync with the people's mandate. Now, setting the agenda for the next 5 years of his governance, the Prime Minister asked each ministry to come out with an impactful decision for which approvals will have to be taken within 100 days. In this interaction, PM Modi also said that the mandate in the Lok Sabha polls reflects the will and aspirations of the people to change the status quo and seek a better life for themselves. He also asked the officials to begin work on making India a $5 trillion economy. And during the interaction, various secretaries shared their vision and ideas on subjects such as administrative decision-making, agriculture, rural development and Panchayati Raj, IT initiatives, education reform, healthcare, industrial policy, economic growth, skill development. The meeting was also attended by the Union Ministers Rajnath Singh, Amit Shah, Nirmala Sitharaman and Jitendra Singh. And on to the other big story this morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to articulate India's position on dealing with the major challenges facing the region, including rising effect of terrorism at the annual summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or the SCO in Bishkek on 13th and 14th of June. Now, it will be the first multilateral meeting in which PM Modi will participate after retaining power for the second consecutive term. The SCO is a structured platform for India to engage with the Central Asian countries. And according to the MEA, there will also be bilateral meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the SCO summit. And India is also likely to focus on the importance of regional connectivity projects to boost trade among the members of the SCO countries.
There is indeed scope for bilateral meetings, and we're happy to confirm bilateral meetings with Russia and China as taking place on the margins of the SCO summit. There will be, and there are other requests also. These tend to be processed, taking into account the limited time available. I will also go on to mention that this is a very special visit because there is a bilateral component also. On 14th of June in the late afternoon will be the India-Kyrgyzstan bilateral segment.
Our colleague Akhilesh Suman is now joining us on the phone line for more perspective on the story. Akhilesh, a very good morning. So PM Modi expected to pitch for a strong and decisive action to deal with the terrorism when he addresses the summit of the SCO on 14th of June. He is also going to hold a series of important bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summit. How important and effective this SCO summit is going to be?
This is a very important summit, Aishwarya, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi has come with a new mandate, and it's a very robust mandate he has got. And the agenda that was always floated during the election, that was one of the basic issues of terrorism. And terrorism, separatism, radicalism, fundamentalism, these are going to be very important that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will like to raise. And you know that Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan will also be there present. So in that presence, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to raise that SCO cannot be successful if terrorism remains present in the area, and if some countries remain, supporting the menace of terrorism. In that way, you can understand that this SCO meeting is going to be held after both India and Pakistan have become permanent members of SCO, and this is the SCO just before G20 meeting is also going to take place in Osaka of Japan, and Chinese president also will be there, Russian president also will be there. So you can understand that no cooperation can take place in the world if there is presence of terrorism. So I
Absolutely.
think this SCO meeting is going to be very decisive, and this SCO summit was actually established to increase the cooperation among the fellow nations and also to create peace in the whole region. And in that way, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to raise this issue very robustly. And the way you know that Russian President Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping is also meeting
Yes.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi, I think he will like to put pressure on the two dignitaries on thinking the way that how menace of terrorism can be stopped. So I think this SCO meeting is going to be very important in that way. And given the fact that the trade war between China and America is ongoing,
Yes.
in that way, I think SCO summit will also discuss these issues. And in that way, Prime Minister Modi is going to raise that, this type of competitive pressure on one of the countries or two of the countries, given the fact that some countries are overproducing, some countries are trying to put protectionism. In
Yes.
that way, India has to find a midway, and India will tell the countries of the SCO summit that you have to obey the rules of markets, and you have to obey the rules of WTO also. And
Yes.
I think it will put pressure on China also to check its sometimes unruly behavior in the market, the menace of dumping also in the market, and also to increase such type of cooperation when all competitive powers, all competitive markets can rise together, can cooperate together. So
All right.
one agenda will be naturally terrorism, another agenda is going to be market, and how
All right.
to increase the connectivity among the SCO members. You know that Pakistan is one country that doesn't give connectivity to India to go into Afghanistan and other Central Asian countries. So we have to go via Iran. Iran is
Yes.
not a
Yes.
very feasible route for India to increase connectivity, to increase market access
So
in all
regional
those areas.
connectivity and terrorism, of course, is going to be the focus of the agenda at the SCO summit. Thank you so much, Akhilesh, for that perspective on that big story. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also attend the outreach session of the G7 summit in France. The Prime Minister has accepted the invitation extended to him by French President Emmanuel Macron to attend the summit as a special invitee. The 45th summit of the G7 group of countries will take place from 24th of August to 26th of August in France. And back home, the centre will hold a meeting with the representatives of various states on the issue of water conservation and drinking water today. The meeting will be chaired by Jal Shakti Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. The meeting has been called in the backdrop of reported alarming situation of the water levels in reservoirs across the country. Now, as many as 91 reservoirs across the country have recorded the lowest water levels. And as per the latest data, the water storage available in 91 major reservoirs of the country was 31.65 billion cubic meters, which is 20% of the total storage capacity of these reservoirs. All right, so very important meeting of the Jal Shakti Ministry, and that is on the issue of water conservation and drinking water. Our colleague Anu Diwan is tracking the story very, very closely. Anu, very good morning. Of course, we have seen how the temperatures have soared across the country, and of course, it has the effect on the water levels across the country as well. We have been reporting how the 91 major reservoirs of the country are showing less than 20% of the total storage capacity, which is absolutely alarming. What more can you tell us about this meeting that is going to take place today?
Exactly. A very good morning, Aishwarya. Exactly seeing the situation of the country as the temperature is rising in the whole of the North India, the water scarcity is becoming a major issue. And seeing today that as promised by the Narendra Modi during the election campaign, that a Jal Shakti Ministry will be formed and that will look after the water scarcity and the water problems in all of the country. So the ministry, after the formation, this will be the first very meeting with all the state secretaries, and the chief minister have been called upon the meeting to conduct a survey that what all the situation is happening in the country and what all measures can be taken to improve the situation, as this Jal Shakti Ministry will be after water scarcity problem and will be finding up the solution so that we major steps can be taken in this forward. So this meeting has been called upon. All the state secretaries and the chief minister have been called upon, and the meeting will start at 11 o'clock. And after presentation by the ministry and the state secretaries and chief minister, at 1 o'clock a briefing is expected by the minister himself, who is holding this, who will be heading this meeting today. Yeah, Shreya.
All right, Anu. Thank you so much for that. You keep tracking those developments. We'll keep coming back to you. Meanwhile, ahead of the NDA's government budget presentation next month, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will hold pre-budget consultations with the agriculture experts today. In the meeting, Nirmala Sitharaman is likely to seek views of the agriculture organizations and farm economists on ways to boost the farm sector growth and increase farmers' income. Sitharaman is also scheduled to meet the economists, the representatives of banks, financial institutions and industry chambers in the coming days. Remember, the regular budget for 2019-20 will be presented on 5th of July. In Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be right back with more news. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Let's get you all the weather updates. And severe heat wave continue to grip the entire north and central India, even as the monsoons advanced in the southern state of Kerala yesterday. The mercury shattered all records in Delhi, with the parts of the national capital recording 48 degrees, which is highest for the month of June. States of Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh also experienced the maximum temperatures of 45 degrees, while the highest temperature was recorded in Churu in Rajasthan at 50 degrees. And Jammu also recorded the hottest day of the season on Monday at 44.4 degrees Celsius, while Banda was the hottest place in Uttar Pradesh, where mercury soared to 49.2 degrees Celsius. And maximum temperatures of 40 degrees or more are likely to persist over Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh as well. Meanwhile, after Kerala, the monsoons has reached Maharashtra, bringing relief to people in the city of Mumbai. The southwest monsoon continues to progress into remaining parts of the South Arabian Sea and Lakshadweep area, with heavy rains over Kerala, Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep. And according to the Met Department, a severe cyclonic storm is likely to hit Gujarat on Wednesday, and it is likely to bring heavy rainfall along the western coast this week. And relief from heat wave is also in sight for northwest India, including Delhi and NCR, as some pre-monsoon activities are likely to start from tomorrow. Two terrorists were killed in an encounter with the security forces in Shopian district of Jammu and Kashmir earlier today. According to the police, security forces launched a cordon and search operation in Arweena area of Shopian in the early hours after receiving specific inputs about the presence of militants in the area. However, the search operation turned into an encounter after the terrorists opened fire at the security forces. And police also recovered arms and ammunition from the scene of the encounter, and the identity and the group affiliation of the terrorists is being ascertained. Meanwhile, in another news from the valley, an army jawan was martyred and 3 others were injured in LOC firing in Jammu and Kashmir's Poonch district on Monday after Pakistani army violated the ceasefire and targeted forward posts in the Doda battalion area. On to some other news. The fugitive diamondaire Nirav Modi will appear before the UK High Court for his fourth bail petition in the extradition case to India today. Nirav Modi was remanded till 27th of June by the British court after his third bail petition was rejected by the UK court last month. Remember, Nirav Modi is wanted in India as he is facing charges of fraud and money laundering amounting to nearly $2 billion in the Punjab National Bank scam case. He was arrested by the Scotland Yard officers on an extradition warrant in central London in the month of March, and he has been lodged in a London jail since then. A special court in Pathankot on Monday sentenced to life imprisonment the three men accused in the gang rape and murder of an 8-year-old girl in Jammu and Kashmir's Kathua district. Now, they are Sanji Ram, Deepak Khajuria and Parvesh Kumar. They have been sentenced to life imprisonment and also fined 1 lakh rupees each after being convicted for criminal conspiracy and murder. Each of their accomplices, namely Surendra Verma, Head Constable Tilak Raj and Sub-Inspector Anand Datta, were sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. And the seventh accused, namely Vishal, was acquitted by the court. They have been convicted for destruction of evidence to cover up and also handed down 5 years in jail and 50,000 rupees fine as well. The crime branch of J&K police had filed a charge sheet against 8 persons, including a juvenile. The trial against the juvenile is yet to begin as his petition on determining his age is yet to be heard by the Jammu and Kashmir High Court.
सुनाई गई है सजा, उसमें लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट सुनाई गई है 302 में तीनों को, जो तीन जो मेन इसमें सांजीराम, परवेश और दीपक खजूरिया को, और हाँ जी हाँ, और 25 साल की सुनाई गई है उसमें 376 डी में। जो मेजर में उसमें मैं बता रहा हूँ, ठीक है, 1 लाख रुपया फाइन और लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट इन 302 एंड 376 डी में इनको 25 साल की सुनाई गई है, 50 साल का बोला गया। और 201 वाले उनको 5 साल की सजा।
US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo will visit India after this later this month, and speaking to reporters in Washington, Pompeo said that he will outline the areas for new cooperation with the newly elected Modi government, as the India-US bilateral relationship is incredibly important to both the countries. New Delhi will be Pompeo's first stop and South Korea will be his last stop during the nearly week-long visit to the entire Indo-Pacific region. Beginning 24th of June, he will also visit Sri Lanka and Japan. And before starting his trip, Pompeo will also address the India Idea Summit of the US Business India Council on Wednesday in Washington. Top international focus now. US President Donald Trump has threatened to raise tariffs on China yet again if President Xi Jinping doesn't meet with him at the upcoming G20 summit in Japan. Donald Trump's response came in an interview with a television channel. Donald Trump said that another round of punitive tariffs on Chinese imports will be done if he cannot make progress in the trade talks with the China's president at the Group of 20 summit later this month. Since 2 days of talks to resolve the US-China trade dispute last month in Washington ended in a stalemate, Donald Trump has repeatedly said that he expected to meet President Xi Jinping at the 28th and 29th of June summit in Osaka, Japan. However, China has not confirmed any such meeting. Remember, trade talks with China hit an impasse last month after Donald Trump accused Beijing of reneging on provisions of a tentative agreement. The two countries have escalated their trade war since then. And Iran has warned the United States that it cannot expect to stay safe after launching an economic war against Tehran. Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said this on Monday, that those waging economic war against Tehran through US sanctions would not expect to remain safe. He made the remarks at a Tehran news conference with his visiting German counterpart, Heiko Maas. He added that the only way to decrease tension in the region is to stop the economic war, emphasizing that Germany and the EU had an important role in such efforts. US President Donald Trump, remember, has imposed sweeping sanctions on Iran after walking away from the 2015 nuclear agreement between Tehran and the world powers that eased sanctions in exchange for curbs on its atomic program. And now all the action from the ICC Cricket World Cup. South Africa and the West Indies were forced to share a point each after their match was called off due to heavy rain in Southampton on Monday. South Africa was struggling at 29 for 2 in 7.3 overs before the rain came. And after having lost their previous 3 matches, South Africa now has earned only 1 point from 4 of their 9 games. On the other hand, West Indies stand on 3 points from 3 games after having lost 1 match to Australia and after winning 1 against Pakistan. And talking about today's match, Bangladesh will face Sri Lanka in Bristol today. And that's it in this edition of Breakfast News. But before we go, here is a quick look at today's yoga video that has been tweeted by the Prime Minister. In the 3D animation video, PM Modi is shown practicing the Bhadrasan. Now, this is the 8th yoga video that has been tweeted by the Prime Minister ahead of the International Yoga Day on 21st of June. So take a look at these visuals as I take your leave. Thanks so much for watching. Have a lovely day ahead.
सामने की तरफ फैलाकर सीधे बैठें और अपने हाथों को अपने कूल्हों के पास रखें। ध्यान रखें कि आपके शरीर का वजन हाथों पे ना पड़े। इस मुद्रा को दंडासन कहा जाता है। अब दंडासन की स्थिति में धीरे से अपनी सांस छोड़ते हुए अपने पैरों के तलवों को आपस में जोड़ें। अब अपने हाथों को अपने पैरों के अंगूठों पर कसें और धीरे धीरे अपने दोनों पैरों की एड़ियों को जितना संभव हो उतना मूलाधार के पास लाएं। अगर ऐसा करते हुए आपकी जांघें जमीन को ना छू रही हों, तो आप उनके नीचे तकिया रखकर उन्हें सहारा दे सकते हैं। भद्रासन एक विराम आसन यानी लंबे समय तक बैठे रहने की मुद्रा है। इसलिए अब इस मुद्रा में आंख बंद करके सामान्य रूप से सांस लें और छोड़ें। भद्रासन शरीर को दृढ़ रखता है और मस्तिष्क को